My name is Costas Ioannidis. I'm the Orangeburg area manager and business consultant with Small Business Development Centers. Today, we're going to have a programming where Doug Lineberry is going to help us out. At the SBDC, who we are, we're a nationwide network of about 63 programs, 1,000 centers across the nation, been in operating since 1979. We consist of professional trained advisors, we provide consulting and training services, as well as connections to other resources. And we operate under the SBA and national accreditation standards. We're here. Our mission is to advance South Carolina's economic development by helping entrepreneurs grow successful businesses. We don't want to help you start or grow a business that's going to go under. We're not doing you any favors. We're here to help you be successful. We carry out our mission. We have 20 centers across the state in urban and rural areas as well. And we have about 55 professional consultants here. And we provide individual private consulting. There's no monetary cost for our services. And everything is strictly confidential. And everything we discuss stays between us unless you want it to be disclosed to anybody. We can refer you out to the service partners, and we provide educational workshops and seminars like the one we have here today. You can always go to our website and see what upcoming webinars we have, or even just in-person trainings that we offer, workshops that we offer. Constantly just go back and check it periodically. It's always being updated. And this here is just a map of where we're located. You see the pins for the different locations. If you're not a client already, you can always register and you can choose an office that's the most convenient for you based on where you live or where you want to have your business located. We serve for-profit enterprises and established businesses, and we also help people with starting up businesses. And we cover all industry segments. Provide financial management. We help a lot of the work that we do are helping people make sure they have solid business plans and financial projections to help secure the funding that people need for starting up their business or growing their business. But we provide assistance in all areas of the business, whether it's operations, HR, marketing, social media, strategic planning, sales, and we can help in just about every area. And if it gets to an area where it's above what we can actually provide, that's when we can also refer you out to various resources. And we can give you a little bit of advice and guidance on, say, a legal matter, but we're not attorneys. We're here to say, okay, this is what it looks like, but if you want clarification, you need to go see someone like Doug. We also help minorities, women's, and veteran-owned businesses in obtaining those certifications for your business. We provide assistance with international trade, helping with government contracting, product commercialization, intellectual property. And you would work with someone, say, with Doug Lineberry with the intellectual property, and we work in conjunction to help you on the business side of things, while Doug helps you on the intellectual property side of things. Diversification of business. I mean, when COVID hit, I mean, if you were just on one thing, all your eggs in one basket. So sometimes it's good to be able to diversify your business so that way if one area is suffering, maybe the other areas can help carry the business through those rough times. We have market programs in agribusiness, veteran programs, growth businesses. We're doing childcare business trainings as well. If you get assistance with the SBDC, statistically, you actually have a better chance of success. You see better sales growth, you see better job growth, significantly higher. Like with job growth, 17.7% versus 1.5 national average for businesses who do not receive assistance from the Small Business Development Center. 18% sales growth from people who get assistance with the SBDC versus 5.5% with no assistance. So definitely take advantage of the SBDC services and contact your local office. A few more results with the SBDC. In the 5-year period from 2019 to 2023, we helped over 33,000 clients We help create and save jobs of over 13,000, and we help people obtain over 400 million in capital funding, and we help people obtain government contracts in the amount of 115 million, and we help start over 1,000 businesses in a 5-year period. Reach out, contact us, go to our website, scsbdc.com. You can go to the top right and sign up and request counseling. And you can also reach out to me. There's my email address, my phone number. You're welcome to reach out to me at any time. And we'll put that information up along with Doug's information at the end, so that way you can get it. Doug, I'm gonna pass it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Costas. And guys, I cannot express enough that Emily and Costas really are here to help. I do think that you need to reach out to them with any of your business needs. I'll confess, I'm a state board member for the SBDC and I love it. I love state small businesses. You guys are fun. I mean, I can't even put it a better way than that. It is very fun to work with a small business. You guys have such an energy, such an aura, such just the whole thing's there for y'all. And I understand that you may think, oh, well, the SBDC is free. Why would I use that? Why would I want that? They're state funded. These are people who've had businesses. And y'all, it's always better to ask a question than it is to worry about, oh, shoulda, woulda, coulda. And that said, I want y'all to ask questions today. You are not bothering us. I'm actually going to put this in the chat. I will be looking at it on the other screen. But I do want everybody here, if you've got a question today, please ask. If I don't know, I'll let you know that I don't know. And we'll find you a source who does know it. As Costas mentioned earlier, and thank you, Costas, I'm an intellectual property attorney. I used to be a labor and employment litigator. So I've played some different roles over the years. The gray hair, some of it's due to experience, most of it's due to my twins, and that's cool. But what I want us to do today for y'all is just have an open ceremony. I want y'all to feel, hey, if I've got a business question, let's ask it. Let's get it answered. Because one thing I want y'all to do is to prepare. That's why we're here today, is to talk about your businesses. What have you done? How do you get it out there? And it doesn't matter if your business is brand new or an existing business. These guys are the essentials for y'all. What do you do for this? What's your business plan? When you go to Costas or one of the other trainers for the SBDC, they're going to have you work out a business plan. Where do you want this thing to go? Where do you want it to be in 6 months, 6 years? Figure out those points to connect them. What are your metrics? How are you going to be able to say, am I doing what I should be doing? As an attorney, hey, I've got a billable hours requirements. I've got an amount of money they want me to collect for the firm, yada, yada. You can do that periodically through the year and watch it. A small business can do the exact same thing. How many new customers do I have? What's my metric on new business? What's my metric on marketing? What's my marketing ROI? How do you measure those metrics? That's the one thing we want you to focus on is, gauge yourself. Am I doing what I should be doing to get there? Your social media presence, guys, it cannot be overstated. In this day and age, everybody's got one of these little supercomputers in front of you. Like right here's mine with Jackson on the cover of it. And so everybody has access to that. When I'm in the elevator, guess what? I'm surfing the, if I'm in a line waiting on a pizza to be picked up someplace, I'm surfing. Everybody's surfing. Make certain that your business is out there. Make certain that you are paying attention to your customers. Make certain it's easy to navigate. I was sitting in a car yesterday. My wife is taking a certification. She's down Woodruff Road all day. And so I'm having to go get the kids from jail, man. And of course, as y'all know from a car line at a big high school, you get there early. And that way you're not sitting 80,000 miles back. But as I'm sitting there, I was trying to navigate the USPTO on my phone. I was trying to help a client look at a trademark. Oh my God, it was terrible. And I mean, it has not been optimized for it. Like there's a desktop version of it that is awesome, but you need to make certain for your business that your social media and your websites look good to the consumers who are on these critters. Because if you think of how much time you spend on a laptop or a desktop or a phone, you're going to find out this is a huge implement of it. And it's the convenience factor, because when people are on this and they're not on their big laptop, what they're doing is they're taking advantage of the convenience. And you need your business to be that convenient for them. Make it easy, accessible, make it so that they can get that data quick and know how to contact you. Business insurance. Y'all cannot overstate this one either. When you're out there and you have a business, you're dealing with other people. and I don't know if you've taken a look in the world lately or not, but other people can be nasty at times. And you need to have this insurance in place just to protect yourself, especially if you're what I will call a consumer oriented business. If you're dealing with people every day, all day, if you're in the health practices, if you're providing a product that people use, you want to have your insurance out there. Professional liability insurance. Guess what? As an attorney, I have a malpractice insurance policy that governs me through the firm. And if I goof something up, it's there in case something happens. So I'm practicing what I preach. I tell you guys, if you're going to have this, look at a good general insurance policy. I had a client that's involved in a buyout. And one thing the buyer wanted to know is like, hey, what's your insurance coverage? And it was a very simple issue for him just to put in a policy number and say, my insurance coverage is in this policy, it's attached here too. So easy to do. And again, make certain you get it. You can get good insurance cheap. You want to make certain you have it though, because if you don't have it, then you have a calamity occur. That's going to put salt in the wound. And I don't want that happening for y'all. Your marketing strategy. Guys, as an intellectual property attorney, I deal with branding every day, all day. I want y'all to understand that you want to get that company out there. And this is an easy way for a small company to be very nimble as compared to the big ones, because smaller is better in this sense. You will be able to nimbly navigate. You will be able to find out, hey, what do clients like best about my website? What do I emphasize? And you've got the ability for search engine optimization to also be there. How do I do this? How do I control it? Your social media and your email marketing, get you a LinkedIn account. And I know everybody jokes that, hey, Facebook's for old people. Guess what? Facebook's for all kinds of people. Get on there and make certain you're on it. Instagram. I have a ton of clients who are an Instagram based business. If you told me that 15 years ago, I would have laughed you off at a PowerPoint. But I'm like, hey, how do we do this and where are we now? Amanda has a question. Thank you, Amanda. Thanks for the webinar and the invitation to ask questions. My burning question is about setting up an EIN, an employment identification number, and the types of accounts for revenue expenses. I know I'm going to set up a separate account, but I need to set up the EIN before going to the bank. I'm a newly licensed real estate salesperson. All right, so here's what I'm going to tell you on that one. Amanda, I am not a real estate attorney, nor am I a tax attorney. What I would suggest we do is reach out to one of them about the EIN. You do want it set up. I think it's very smart to keep these accounts separate because you are doing something very important here. You don't want to mingle the business with the personal. Just like you say, hey, all work and no play makes you a dull boy. Same issue. Costas, I see you popped up.
Yeah, exactly to your point, Doug. Definitely get the EIN set up first because you do not want to have any of that commingling going on. And then what I would say is reach out to me or another consultant at the SBDC. We can help you with this. I was a controller for a multi-retail business. I know setting up chart of accounts and all that. Talk with me and I can give you some advice on that best way to go about it. But definitely you'll want that EIN before opening up that bank account. So that way you're not tying up your social security number with that.
That's a really good point. Y'all, Costas hit it nail on head. You want to keep this separate. You do not want there to be a business and a personal. One thing, too, that we're going to go into, my mouse wheel is very sensitive, so bear with me. We're going to go slow. But you know what? Think of where you're going to need a third-party resource because Costas popping up right there is beautiful. He said, look, I've dealt with this EIN thing before. Call me. We'll work something out. And again, his information is going to be here in our contact info. You've seen he's already provided his email address. Reach out. It is never a bad thing to ask a question. And Amanda, thank you so much for breaking the ice. Everybody else, Douglas, Dion, Jackie, and you're all freaking out, but I can see your names. Kevin, Richard, A. Pilston. I need all of y'all to start asking questions because I know they're out there and I don't want y'all to feel in any way intimidated by it. I also know I talk like a shotgun. So I'm going to stop for a second. And thanks to Amanda's first question, does anybody else have a question right now about anything we've covered or something you'd like to ask? And I don't see anything popping up, but I am looking at the chat. Y'all feel free to ask questions. Veronica and Alexis, I'm looking at you. What we want to do now is talk about our website design. And this is something you probably need a third party for unless this is your business. You do want it to look sleek. Like I was talking about trying to use the USPTO in the car the other day. Pain. You don't want your website to ever be painful, because in this day and age, it's way too simple to do another Google search or a Bing search and find somebody else. I call it click away syndrome. If you're going to make my life trouble, I'm just going to go somewhere else. I'm going to click away from you. Accounting, guess what? We've already talked about keeping those accounts separate. We do mean that, guys. You do never want a situation to where it's hard to tell what's company money and what's personal money. Tamara, I'll use you as an example. If you've got a personal account and a business account, those two never, ever, ever commingle. You keep your business expenses business, you keep your personal personal, because there's a concept called piercing the veil. And one thing we'll talk about too is everybody needs a corporate entity. Notice I'm slowing down. Everybody needs a corporate entity. I do not want sole proprietorships. I do not want partnerships. I want there to be at least an LLC set up for all of your companies. And you might, but Doug, I'm little. Well, guess what, everybody? Little companies get sued too. Single individuals get sued too. I don't want there to ever be a situation to where, Kevin or Jackie or Douglas, it's your personal assets that are out there because you didn't take the simple step of setting up an LLC. If you don't know how to do it, find somebody who does. Contact me. I've got all kinds of attorneys who can do that for you. But what we want to do is to make certain that you have it. Same for your human resources. Guess what? Do you need some software to help you track? Do you need payroll taken care of? Dion and Alexis both asked questions. I'll go to them. Let me finish this right here. But do you need attendance tracking? You don't want to be the person having to sit there and track that. There are businesses who can provide it. Now let's go to the question. Dion says, I have an EIN, thinking about going back to just a hobby with my business. Would I keep the EIN? Hobby and business, I tell you, Dion, I love how you're using those words. Still means you want to keep it separate. Still means you do not want to be the Dion Kelly business and the Dion Kelly person. Separate them. Keep them separate. Even if you're like, my business is a hobby, doesn't matter. If you're doing business, even on a small hobby scale, you still want those protections. You still want that LLC. Great question, but you do not want to get rid of that protection. You keep them separate. Alexis, are there recommendations on the best payroll and employee database softwares? That is a good question. I think you're going to get different answers from whoever you go to. This Costas guy over here is going to be able to give you some good examples of folks that they deal with. With respect to me, we use an internal one. It's out of our New York office, so I don't have a local one that I could recommend, but there are all kinds of awesome local Greenville companies for you to do it. One thing I will tell you to do is kick their tires. Don't just stop with the first stop. Talk to people, go out there and kick them. And again, like we're talking about these third-party resources, you don't have to use me. I'm just here presenting for the SBDC to help you guys. I want you to be comfortable with these third-party resources. If you talk to attorneys and one of them gives you the heebie-jeebies, you're like, I don't like this Lineberry guy. That's okay. That is completely okay. Because as the business owner, at the end of the day, it's your decision. And I want y'all to understand, hey, when do I need these folks? Now, one thing I'll tell you is you do need an attorney. And I know it's an attorney saying to hire an attorney. It seems funny and it seems self-serving, but I'll tell you it'll keep you out of trouble. A lot of people like to use LegalZoom or they like to use a ChatGPT to set up documents and stuff now. Do not do it. Y'all, it is a bad situation. You can use ChatGPT to create a draft and then take that to an attorney. But y'all, I dealt with an asset purchase agreement, I guess Monday. We just got back from spring break, client selling a business. I get this 30-page doc, and there are some paragraphs in it. It's very well written, but there's some paragraphs in it that just don't work in South Carolina. And I'm like, hey, these guys from Massachusetts, they're buying a South Carolina company. They're trying to get the South Carolina company to agree to certain things. They don't fit. And you wouldn't know that if you just went and pulled this thing off the internet. So you do want to have that in your pocket. Sorry, y'all, there's a new one popped up. Looks like it's from Alexis again. Should we go to an attorney through a yes? Oh my gosh, Alexis, thank you so much. Should we go to an attorney to review our employee handbook? Yes, absolutely yes. The reason you want to do that is because, guess what? Your employee handbook is that sort of legal document that you have with your employees. You want to make certain that it's got the warnings in there that, hey, we're an at-will state. This employment can be terminated any time. There's special ways to do that. I used to do it back in the day. I don't remember it anymore, but absolutely positively, you want those handbooks to be reviewed periodically. And I'm not saying every week, but every 18 months, 2 years, go back to your labor and employment guy and say, hey, do me a read through on this and have them flat fee it, say, hey, what will it take for the review? Get that number nailed down. That's the way I do my IP stuff. It's a flat fee. Hey, it's going to cost you X. Here's the government fee. We all know what we're doing with that. But I need you to do that same thing for your employee handbook. Because if you don't do that, Alexis, you look at some bad things happening. Maybe you left out a critical policy. Maybe you didn't have a confidentially non-disparagement or non-agreement. Maybe you didn't have a cherry picking clause. If you don't have it in there, you can't argue that the employee knew about it. It's kind of your Bible, and you want to make certain that you've got it from Genesis to Revelations. Um, Also, other third parties you might use, advanced marketing strategy. I have several clients that refer me trademarks to their marketing groups. Had a lunch yesterday that went really well. I mentioned one of my clients uses a particular amino acid called leucine. And yes, I'm a big nerd and I'm sorry. But the marketing person was like, huh, that's weird. I just did work for a company that has a leucine like candy bar. And so I went back and introduced them, and lo and behold, my client who's getting ready to set up a new product needed these guys, and they didn't know they needed each other. The marketer didn't know they existed, but my client didn't know, oh crud, there are companies out there that can help us with this. So for your marketing strategy, guys, I hear you. You're originally starting out and you're on that shoestring budget, but it never hurts if you've got a buddy in the field. Hey, like kind exchange, man. If you're a lawn service, you go mow and they start doing some advanced marketing for you. If you're an accounting service, guess what? You handle some of their book work or bookkeeping or something. They trade it for you. There are ways you can make this happen, but I absolutely want you to look into that. Your tech protection, guys, it can't be overstated in this day and age. You're going to have to have good hardware, good software. You're going to want to make certain that you've got breach protection in there, virus protection. If you're dealing with people's data, you want to make certain that you're absolutely doing everything you can against a cyber attack. Unless that is your field of expertise, you're going to need a third party for it. You don't want to be the person who has a bunch of personal data and it gets out. The reporting obligations on that, things that have to be done in a certain time. You want to make certain that you have spoken to a professional about that. I get it. You're like, hey, I'm a small business. Some of these things are pretty quintessentially important. You want to make certain that you do them. Guess what? That is so funny. We're talking about applying for the EIN. You want to do it. Just like Costa said, keep the personal and the business separate. You want to do that. Register with the South Carolina Secretary of State. Open those business banking accounts. And I love the fact that y'all's questions are right there at it, because it sort of shows the nascence of this and how it's important to all of us. And I know it sounds so funny, but apply for your permits and licenses. It is really weird. I had a client the other day. They went up to New York and took their kids with them, and they got a Uber who they don't think was an Uber. They got in the car, and you can always see the Uber. You can see the other ride sign in there and their logos. They got in the car, like, and the lady's very nice, but they're like, we didn't see any branding in there. And then we were like, we think maybe she just drove up to the airport and picked people up. And I'm like, I hear you. Nothing like being a pirate cabbie, but you better have some insurance in there. You better have permits and licenses, because if anything happens, if there was an accident, God forbid, that is going to unravel really quickly. The last one seems so evident. Pay your taxes. Everybody gets busy. April 15th, y'all, is coming up soon. I mean, think of it. We're down to 2 business days left in March. And so then it's going to be April Fool's Day. And then 2 weeks later, it might be April Fool's Day again if we don't pay our taxes. So I want y'all to be on board with this. I know it seems so simplistic and sophomoric, but you want to make certain that, hey, do I have my business account set up? Do I have my EIN? Have I set up what I should be doing? Do I have my permits? Do I have my licenses? And at the end of the day, am I paying my state and federal taxes? Just make certain that you're doing that. It preserves your business and it prevents a lot of issues. So we have talked about this corporate entity, guys, but I'm putting it again in here. I want y'all to understand this. And I'll ask a quick question. Who here today does not have a corporate entity set up? Alexis, you're the first alphabetically. Tamara, you're last. I want everybody to tell me, do you have an LLC set up yet? Awesome. Amanda has a question too while you guys are getting ready to fess up. See, Dion, Amanda, I love it. I need you guys to get on board with this. And Ollie, absolutely. Back to Amanda's earlier point, though, she said tech counseling is another area I could use right now. I want to start in real estate with an appropriate, like having all your tech set up. I think that's beautiful. Talk to Costas about this. Ping him and say, hey, Costas, what other businesses have you dealt with? What are SBDC companies maybe out there that I can use? I think it is a beautiful thing. But for the 3 honest people, and Dion, Anali, Amanda, I love y'all. You were absolutely stepping up and doing what I said to do. Everybody else, you better have an LLC set up. If you do not, I love it. Amanda said, hey, I'm going to reach out to Costas. Do it. It's what they're here for. It's why they help you. But the reason everybody here who does not have a corporate entity set up, Do it. And notice I'm saying no partnerships. I don't want to doing business as. If you got an LLC with the DBA, cool. That's awesome. And Ollie says, I'm not in business yet, but close. And Ollie, I want you to get that done because guess what? If you're signing agreements, even though you might not be in business yet, if you're taking out an insurance policy, if you're setting up an agreement with a vendor, I need the LLC to be the person making that deal, not an Ollie personally. Um, awesome, man. Knock it out. Everything's in writing, guys. I hate to hear a client rolling in. No, I don't. Had one roll in yesterday. Gun client, I do firearms work for clients up and down the southeast and out west. And one of them pinged the other day and said, I'm working on this new design. My artist is being weird and won't give me back my drawings. I'm like, that's strange. Did you design it? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, well, tell me about your agreement with them. And he goes, well, we don't have an agreement. I just hired this guy. And I'm like, oh my God. And y'all, I do mean, oh my God, you really want to get this stuff in writing. And I don't care how little it is, even if it's just a self-serving email to say, hey, Costas, I know we talked about this today. Here are the bullet points that we agree to. Get that out there, get it done because you want to have at least that writing. Because if you don't, it makes it tough, man. It's a he said, she said. Everybody's going to be pointing a finger, especially if money's at issue or now the relationship between you and the vendor is frayed. It gets ugly quick. Writings do so much to get rid of that. With this client, he said, hey, we know I'm getting ready to use the guys who were doing the drawings for me. They're also a producer, manufacturer. He goes, hey, I'm getting ready to work with them. I'm like, we're setting up an operating agreement. He goes, we are setting up an operating agreement. And I want y'all to do the same thing because you want to have those in place. Now, your dispute resolution strategies. No business goes 100% simple. No business is 100% smooth. You need to figure out, hey, if things go sideways, how do I want this to happen? Do we have a negotiation? Do I and the other person sit down for a lunch? Do we have a mediation or an arbitration where we pull in a third party to help us out on this? Put that in your writing. A lot of times people will not have an arbitration clause. They won't have a clause that says, hey, are we going to fix this? Also have a cure period in your documents, meaning, hey, if something goes wrong, I've got 20, 30 days to fix it, whatever you're comfortable with. But I do want y'all to think of these writings as, hey, these are my Bible. Amanda was asking about what to do about the employee handbook. These contracts are the addenda to the Bible. This is where we're like, hey, this is my relationship with my vendor. Here's what they expect of me. Here's what I expect of them. And again, you don't need an attorney for every dispute. You really don't. But I'll tell you this, be nice. It is so easy for people, especially, as stressed as everybody is and as hectic as business is, be nice. And I realize it's an attorney telling you to be nice. That should make you stop and take a breath and be like, I've got an attorney telling me to be nice. I am, because you will always get more flies with honey than vinegar. And if you go nasty at somebody, you will turn around and realize, maybe I shouldn't have been that nasty, or maybe I was having a bad day. I want y'all to realize business is business. Business is not personal. Business is business. And so when you review it from that aspect of it, it's a lot easier to be nice. And you may be heated. Like, guys, if I'm ever tempted to send like a heated email, I'll do a couple things. I'll take my old cup here and I will walk down the hall and I'll get some new water. And I'm a huge unsweet tea drinker. Costas will tell you I drink like a camel. And I will go get a new drink before I send that email. And the reason I do it is I want to cool down a little bit. I want to think on it. I want to come back with a different perspective, go walk around the lobby a little bit, maybe go to the bathroom, look out the window, then come back and view it with a set of fresh eyes. Y'all do the same thing in business. Do not get nasty with people. It just makes things difficult. Guess what? Protecting your intellectual property. This is what I do day in, day out. I cannot stress enough that a small business needs to do these things very early. Your trademarks, absolutely. You need to make certain before you're in business that you've cleared the name you're going to use. If you're going to be McFiddles and you're going to sell fiddles, you need to make certain that there's not a McFiddles out there someplace already selling fiddles. If you're going to be, Talbot Real Estate Incorporated, you want to make certain there's not another Talbot Real Estate out there. And I realize Amanda's like, that's my last name. It may be your last name, but we still want to check and make certain. Again, we've got a lot of protection for trademarks, your logos, and your word slogans. You can have the way your designs look. You might just identify yourself. Like, I'm looking out the window here off Main Street. Here's the Landmark building. They've got the L and M. They're put together as their logo, and it's a very cool symbol. Yep. And Costas is right. You do need to get this on board before registering your LLC. You want to make certain that name is down. We want to make certain that these trademarks are filed before you go into business, because if you've not done that, you run a risk. I'll give you a war story. I know it's 12:31 on a Thursday, but I'll give you a brief one. Had a client out of the center of the state called Carolina Charcuterie. Guess what? They're from Carolina and they make charcuterie boards. That's their name. I think it's kind of a cool name. I like charcuterie and I'm a fat boy, so I'm like, heck yeah. But they did not protect their name. They've been going about 13 years. The owner found out that there was a Charlotte charcuterie out. Sorry, I goofed it up. There was a Carolina charcuterie out of Charlotte. He started getting complaints because these guys weren't very good at producing charcuterie boards. And people would be like, "Why didn't you show up for the party?" And he's like, "I don't know who you are." And they're like, "You were supposed to come to this party in Charlotte." The guy's like, I don't do Charlotte. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. And they found out, oh, wait, I was dealing with the Charlotte, South Carolina charcuterie. So this client, love them to death. They did try to handle it themselves, but they were a little too clever by half. He called the Charlotte office of Carolina Charcuterie and said, "Hey, down here, Columbia, Carolina Charcuterie, been going 13 years. Can I get you guys to cease using that name?" Instead of ceasing to use it, they jumped on the trademark office and filed for Carolina Charcuterie. Yeah, that's a dick move, and that's Latin for not very nice. But my guy triggered it. It should have been the other way is, hey, call Doug, call another IP professional, get them to get my trademark filed. Then they can go and try to file, but you're already there because trademarks are first to file, meaning whoever files first at the trademark office gets precedent. Doesn't matter if you've been using it 100 years or you just started using it. But what you really want to do is to make certain that you're getting those filed early. Veronica Reed, she owns a business that provides early childhood and CPR training. I'm fully equipped with insurance, a vendor number, an EIN, and a small minority certification. Awesome. However, I'm struggling with effective marketing. My website is currently under review by the SCSB, and I have a LinkedIn profile. I work independently and have a written legal plan in place. What would you recommend to improve my marketing efforts? As I see on this side, I don't have trademarks, copyrights, and that set up. Call me on the IP, Veronica. So happy to help. It's what I do. It's how I feed my kids. With respect to the marketing folks, I will give you several recommendations. I have a couple here in Greenville that you'll love and you'll talk to. I got a couple all of the Midlands. I do like to spread it out a little bit. You know, you may find out, hey, using somebody else in a different part of the state gets a different angle. Ping me. I will be happy to provide you with introductions to all of them. But I love y'all asking these questions, guys. You're not bothering us one little bit. Indeed, you add to the conversation. You enhance the conversation. Anali. So I'm having to use my personal credit to obtain funding to start my business. The agency wants me to sign a consultant agreement, which will be in my name, my credit. What are your thoughts on that? The agreement is a bit vague in places, but they were recommended by SCORE. But I'm just a single mom and need to be very careful. And all of you absolutely need to be careful. And I love the fact you know that already. That's awesome. What I would like to do is if there's any way for your, and you said you didn't have an LLC set up yet, I want the LLC to be the critter signing those agreements. I want it to be the LLC who's out there. I get it that they want you to personally guarantee it because of you are a new business, and sometimes you have to do that to get the agreement. I fully understand that, but I want you to do a couple things. I want you to reach out to my man Costas here. I want you to talk to him about ways that maybe we can negotiate through this, but I need you to get that LLC set up because if you're entering these agreements, Anali, this is exactly the time that the LLC needs to be the forward-facing person here. Maybe they want you to personally guarantee this, and I can understand that. I get it too. If I'm dealing with a small business, they want to lock in as much as they can to protect themselves, but I need you to be informed going in. I want you to reach out to Costas and make certain, hey, I have talked to him. I know where I'm at, and I know the wiggle room that I've got on this. With respect to your IP, holler. I'm happy to have. I give a, oh, y'all. I probably should have told you all this early on. I give a free consultation. I'm not one of these guys who starts running the clock. I love small businesses. I said that early and I mean it. You guys are fun. I mean, it makes my day to deal with small business, especially when you're all very excited and things are just taking off. It's so cool. Holler at me. We'll set up a Teams. You'll get to see this ugly mug. We'll talk. But make certain you do it because, you know, back to our other IP protections here, you all have this. You've got trademarks. You create copyrights in your websites and your materials. You've got trade secrets. And guys, this one is tough. A lot of people don't think, yeah, they get it. But Anali, it is wild. I love it. Anali's like, it's so wild and haven't even started yet. You have started, Anali, mom dear. You're past the starting gate. You're out there running now. We're just trying to help you make certain that as you're running this race, we're pushing hurdles to the side for you. But what we do want to make certain is that we recognize that you own all these. Your trade secrets, like in Ollie, in your case, guess what? You're sitting here working out with a vendor. You've got a consultant agreement going on. There's trade secrets behind that. The ways that you'll provide these services, the way that you think about services, the way that you do it, that's a trade secret. It's not something you go educate your competitors on. Your patents, everybody's like, hey, maybe I'm not building anything yet. You may. If anybody in here has a company that's going to build a product, you need to be thinking about design patents and utility patents. And I don't care how simple the product is. I have filed for design patents literally for food containers. And that's because the person came up with a very cool new design for it. So I want you guys to be very aware of there are a lot of different protections out there for your IP. Trademark is a basic. It has to be done early. You need to make certain your name is clear, because what you don't want to have happen is you get out, you start doing business, and somebody comes out of the woodwork and says, nope, said, sorry, Kristen, you cannot be McFiddles. We're McFiddles and we sell McFiddles and have been selling McFiddles forever. We need to make certain you guys are clear moving out. You need to make certain you've got those marks on file so that you avoid the Carolina charcuterie conundrum. And I realize that's a lot of C's and I don't know how I pulled that off, but I don't want y'all being trapped in that same sticky wig. Your trademark searches, again, do those before you get out there. Do those before you start being a business. You need to make certain that your mark is clear. If you've had a business that's been going for a while, file for these, because if you're ever going to sell the business, somebody is going to ask you about it. File with an attorney. I realize that's an attorney saying use an attorney. I get clients probably at least one a month who's used somebody else to file these things. They come back wrong. They come back too narrow. They're done wrong. These companies are there to generate money fast and to get away from you. They're not there to help. Y'all, I'm down on Main Street. I'm the fifth floor of the Hyatt. You can come and kick my butt anytime you need to. I'm easy to find. And you want that with your attorney. Not necessarily go beat them up, but if you have to, you have to. But I want y'all to know, hey, I've got a human face here. Doug travels the state. I know this guy. If I need him, he'll jump on the teams with me, have a call. You don't get that from these other places. There's a reason for it. They treat you like a fungible good. You're just the current one that they're draining funds from, and then to move to the next. Again, when you're coming up with your trademarks, guys, don't mimic somebody else's. Again, keep it kind of novel, kind of neat. When you're doing this, hey, make it fresh. You don't want to be just like somebody else. Also, a trademark is always an adjective. A lot of people mistake it to be like a noun. It is not. It's an adjective. I know a lot of y'all are like, oh crap, we're getting a grammar lesson on Thursday at lunch. We are, because you need to realize that it's Ray-Ban sunglasses. And Ray-Ban is the trademark. It is not the actual, it may be the company name too, and that's okay, but it's really the trademark. And the item that the Ray-Ban describes is sunglasses. So I need y'all to use that same thing for your businesses. If you're curious about that, ping me. I have a good handout. It's called the acid test. Happy to give that to you guys. Costas, I'll send you a couple copy too. You too, Emily, so that y'all can distribute it to folks if anybody's curious about it. Our copyrights, guess what? If you want to get on somebody for copying your designs, if any of you are architects, if any of you are product designers, if anybody in here is a clothing designer, guess what? Copyrights can be your friend. If anybody in here is an artist, if you're a photographer, copyrights are absolutely your friend. There are a lot of ways that we can enhance this for you. Like when you've got that voila photograph that you've taken, or that voila picture that you painted, you'll want to register that one. You don't have to register them all. You've got certain common law rights that are out there, but you want to make certain that for the ones that are voila, and you think, hey, this is going to make me a lot of money, get it registered. Work made for hire, guys, I see this in contracts all the time. Work made for hire really only applies in 9 very distinct categories. It's things like generating an atlas, creating test answers for people. It never really applies in the real world. As y'all see, I've got a lot of gray hair. I've been practicing as an attorney for, holy crap, let me do some math here, guys, almost 30 years. I have seen one client in 30 years fit within these 9. Most everybody else does not. What happens then is you can't say it's a work made for hire. People like to say, oh, I paid you for it, so it's work made for hire. It's not how it is. A work made for hire is one of these non-specific categories. Again, one time in 30 years, probably doesn't fit any of y'all. Or it's work performed by an employee in the scope of her business duties, i.e., you're an R&D person for the company, you're doing R&D, that's a work made for hire. They're paying you to do this work. It belongs to them. Again, your trademark logos, if you're using somebody to create it, like, we had folks saying, hey, who do I reach out to? Who's a good marketing source? When you use these guys, you want to make certain that you own it. You want to make certain at the end of the day that once they've done your logo for you or whatever it is that they do for you, that you own it. I need to have a copyright assignment. I have a lovely company out of Newberry I use, and they proactively said, hey, we've got this client. They're wanting us to prove to them that they actually own it. Said, we've never really crossed that bridge before. What do we do? Copyright assignment. Very simple document. You own it. And the reason I say that is if you go to sell it later on, somebody can also turn up your rocks and be like, hey, you've got this copyright, you've got this trademark. Who made this? Where is the proof that you actually own it? So I want y'all to know that these are all out there and are very poignant issues for all of us. Costas has got a question. Here you go. He's got two of them, and one of them is awesome. If someone has to, they're both awesome, but this one's very poignant for everybody. If someone has to get a bank loan where the bank requires personal credit guarantee, will that pierce the corporate veil? Man, look at Costas loading this one up. Piercing the corporate veil, guys, is a situation that occurs when you do not treat the business entity as a separate entity, i.e., you're using it to buy your Netflix account for the house. You're using the company funds to pay for tires on your personal car. If you start doing activities like that and you don't respect the corporate formalities, you absolutely positively can have a situation to where if someone sues you, they get to disregard the LLC. They get to disregard the C Corp or whatever else you might be. And so Costas is saying, hey, if you have to personally sign for something, does that pierce the veil? It does not, because it is understood that, hey, sometimes to start off as a small business, you're going to have to put personal skin in the game. That still does not impact the legitimacy of that business. And it's not the same thing as saying, oh, well, I went out and opened up a loan and started using it to fund my swimming pool at the house instead of using it for my business. Absolutely, that can pierce the corporate veil. But if you personally have to go out and act as the guarantor for a loan, that doesn't mean you're piercing the veil. That is an awesome question, Costas. I've never heard that one before, and I love this because, again, we want you guys to understand, hey, the physicality and the separation has to be there. Personal remains personal, business remains business. Costas has another great question. What about using GoDaddy to create logos for people creating a website? Homework time. You need to read and see what you're actually getting from GoDaddy. Some of these places will have a rent to never own program, meaning that if you're not paying them a certain VIG or a certain renewal, that you will never get to own that particular logo. You do not want that. You want to go someplace that at the end of the day, once you're done and you've paid them, you own it. If you go to some of these designers, like some back in the day, website designers are that way. And we're very much like, hey, if you stop using me, the website stops with me. Y'all need to ask those questions. You need to make certain that if I cease doing business with you, what happens to my website? What happens to my logos? What I want as your friend and as the guidance on this talk today is I want you to own it. If you decide not to use somebody, I want you to be able to walk away and take your circus tent with you. If you read in the contract that, the clowns and the cannon and the elephants all stay with them, that's not a good deal for you. You need to figure out a way to where, hey, if I have to leave you at some point, I need to make certain that I own those things. And that's why filing for your trademarks, filing your copyrights are important first off, because if you do that and then go to this company, it's much harder for them to put a latch into it. It is much harder for them to claim an ownership to it. Yep, and Costas has a good idea here. It says, hey, web designers will often buy the domain where they contracted to build a website. And at the end of the day, you need to know, where does that domain go? If I leave you, ABC Marketing Company, where does that domain go? Does it come with me, or do I have to buy it from you? How does this work? What I would suggest, we're going to do something called haggling. We're going to negotiate. I want y'all to be able to sit down with them and say, okay, if I'm going to use you for this, I need to know that I own this stuff. I don't want to rent to never own. I want a situation to where at the end of the day, I know I'm protected. I know that my business is my business, and that you, Mr. Marketer, did a great job for me. But at the end of the day, you do you, I'll do me. And if we walk separate paths, that's okay. Our patents, again, for the widgets, you may have a look to something, you may have a way that it works. Let's go over some knots. Let's go over things that absolutely shouldn't do. Do not lift stuff off the internet, guys. And I'm talking documents, I'm talking photographs, I'm talking music, I'm especially talking logos. A lot of people will see a design they like, and I'm like, oh my God, that'd be great for my company. You got to be really freaking careful here. I did get a church recently get a $9,500 cease and desist. It's one of the higher ones I've seen. They used a picture of a bunch of leaves in fall as one green leaf on top of some red and orange and brown ones. They were teaching little kids to color. Of course, the artist had a robot out there. There are programs that will look for the photograph. It found it, said, "Here you go," and it's a preschool upside close to York using this to teach little kids to color. I thought it was dumb. I'm just like, you are kidding me. Um, and Veronica, I just see you popped up. She said, I created my own logo off Canva. That logo needs to be trademarked. Yep. And just make certain under the Canva usage and terms there, Veronica, that we're free to do so, that we can file a trademark on it. You'll find out that some of these places, and I'm not saying Canva, but just read it to make certain that we can file a mark on it, because you will see some areas that are like, hey, if you use us for design elements for a trademark, you can't place a trademark on this. I had a client try that years ago. They came to me and had a trademark, and I kid you not, I went to a cocktail party that afternoon, saw their symbol as a phoenix, and I saw it again. I'm like, what are the odds of this? My guy was like a fire manager for like fire department, and this other one was like it wasn't a realtor. I think they were like a photographer for real estate agencies, and they had the exact same phoenix logo. So I came in the next day and asked my guy, where did you get this? And it was some clip art thing. And sure enough, in the language of the clip art thing, it said, hey, you can't use these for trademarks. You can't file one. So Veronica, just make certain the Canva doesn't have a limitation on the way you created it. We'll be good to go, and I'll be happy to help. But back to our nose. I don't want y'all lifting anything off the website. Create your own stuff. If you do not create it and you put it on there, the only time you can use it is when you have a writing from whomever you took it from to say you can use it. If not, it's infringement. And I don't want you crying to me later going, oh, I didn't know. You now know. If you don't create it and you put it on your website, you can get a $9,500 letter just like this church did. You know, they had pretty good arguments that they're, hey, we're using it to educate little kids. This doesn't impact your sales of this particular picture. You know, there are a lot of great things about free use that they have. Not all companies have that, especially if you're using it on a website where you're trying to sell stuff. That debunks a lot of it because you're trying to use their stuff to make money, and that kills fair use pretty quick. No handshakes, guys. Put it in writing. I love the fact that Nolly's like, hey, I'm entering agreements. Thank God. Yes, enter those. Make certain they're in writing. Make certain that if you have an agreement with somebody, like if you and Emily work something out, everything's in there. Don't assume, hey, I've got a contract. You want to make certain that if you agreed that, hey, as part of this, I get a free bushel of peaches, make certain that's in there. Paragraph 3, paragraph 7, wherever it should be. Make certain it's in there, because if it's not, a lot of contracts have a wind-up agreement that says, hey, you know, this writing is all we've agreed to. If there's anything outside this writing, it's not important, it doesn't matter, and it's not enforceable. So I want y'all to understand that that does mean what it means. Like if they've told you, hey, you get A, B, C, D, and the contract only says A, B, you need to make certain C and D are put in there. Because if they're not, and you've got an all-encompassing paragraph that says, hey, this agreement's the only agreement, you're out of luck, and that's your fault for not covering it. Um, Artificial intelligence, guys, no AI legal docs of any kind. Yes, it's an attorney telling you to use an attorney, because when you turn these little maniacs loose out there, the AIs, I'm not talking about us per se, but when you turn those AIs loose, they will go out and generate things. If they can't find them, they'll create them, because you're saying, I won't. And the AI's goal is to be like, I provide. And so what I don't want y'all to do is to think, hey, I've asked this chat GPT and it generated this and I'm good to go. Absolutely not. If it is a legal document, you have it looked over by an attorney. Remember too, if somebody hears from North Carolina or Georgia, if it is a contract that has particular elements that are common to either North Carolina or Georgia law, you will want a North Carolina or Georgia attorney to look at that. You could be a South Carolina company doing business in other states. You'll want to make certain your contracts work in those states too. Again, everything that an AI creates for you, you review it. You do not have the excuse of saying, oh, I didn't know. Also, be very careful. Who in here uses Grammarly? Starting at Alexis, going down to the bottom, who in here uses Grammarly to check things? William Kill, looking at you, brother. William, have you ever used Grammarly to check anything? Like to do a grammar check or a syntax check on any sort of documents?
Hey Doug, I had a classmate in grad school that used Grammarly to make sure that everything looked okay, and she got busted for using AI, which is against our college's policy and she got put on probation because she didn't know, because they recommend Grammarly on the university level to check your stuff.
Yep. And I love it now. Hey, and I've got Alexis and Amanda. Y'all are quickly becoming my favorite participants today. And William Kim, still looking at you, buddy. I need an answer. And I also threw Sandra Alvarado in there with you as well. I love it. William's like, no, sir, I haven't. So William, now on my favorite kid list. Now, what I want from this is I want you to, Dion, I see your question. I will come to that. But y'all, you've just heard the thing from Emily saying, hey, I had a friend busted for using it and she shouldn't have. Got to be very careful, guys. Grammarly is an active AI. It's also a training AI. So whatever you use Grammarly to look at, it takes it off of your computer, like I'm sitting here at my desk. It takes this document from my computer and it sends it to a server that Grammarly has access to. You're like, I don't care. You do, because if you had to review your business plan or anything that's got trade secret information in it, you just turned that loose to the universe. So all of you folks who are saying, hey, I've used Grammarly, I've used an AI, I need y'all to be very careful about this. I would prefer that I recommend that you use a captive AI, an AI that does not leave your system, because if you're using Grammarly or some of these others, they will take that information back to their servers. And this is part of that agreement with them. You might say, hey, Grammarly's free or this is free. It's not free. You've agreed to them. They can use your information to train the AI, to teach the AI, to let other AI see that. You don't want that. That is a massive boo-boo that people do not get. You guys are now warned when you're using these AIs, you need to know what happens to your data. When you put that in there, where does it go? And if that is something that you're okay with, then maybe, but I want you to be cognizant of this. If you're using it to check like your trade secret information, like if you have a particular cleaning solution, here's how it's made, and you're just trying to make it look pretty and put it in a file. If you use Grammarly to check that, your secret formula is now out. I don't want y'all doing this. I don't want your business plans going through that. I especially don't want like expansion plans, marketing plans, expenses, any of that stuff being checked by these AIs potentially harmful to you because it's now put out there for your competitors to find. And I know it seems silly. You're like, oh, what could happen? Somebody could check for your business, and if these things have put your info out there, they'll find it. Now I'm going to go back to our questions, guys. Let's see here. So Amanda and Alexis said, hey, they use ChatGPT or maybe they use it rarely. Just be cognizant. Those AIs do send that off. You see, William, I love it. And William's like, I have not. Also, Dion. Dion says, I use a picture from the internet for my electronic business card. Should I not use that picture? Well, Dion, my friend, I appreciate you asking this. Do you have permission to use it? If you do not have permission to use it, I would not use it because you're just like the church. Except in this case, you're using it on a business card to solicit your services. And Dion, what do? Give me just a blurb of what you do, because your business card with that picture on it is sort of the antithesis of fair use. You're doing it so people come to Dion. They're like, hey, I know Dion. Dion's awesome. Dion Kelly's cool. I want to use him for my business. And look at this picture on his card. That, my friend, is something you have to worry about because you are trying to use it to bring in. Anali's like, whoa, ChatGPT. Absolutely, Anali. Check all of these. When you're using an AI, you need to make certain that it is not sending your info somewhere else. I want it to remain captive with you, or for you to never train them on anything that you're not comfortable being out there, and to understand that anything you expose them to will be put out there. So yes, I need you guys to be very, very careful on that. Veronica, I purchased an online education product and requested permission from the creator to use it in my training. She agreed, provided I give her proper credit for the work. Oh gosh, I love it. Veronica's catching on instantly. Should I have her draft a legal agreement to confirm my usage rights? For context, I also use Grammarly, which I subscribe to annually. Okay, I love it, Veronica. You've handed me two beautiful things to hit on. I do want a permission from her. It doesn't have to be the Magna Carta. Something that just puts out, hey, dear Sheila, you said I could use your program on my program. Here's how I'm using it. You're okay with this. Please acknowledge by return of this email. And then you're going to keep a copy of that. And then you're going to make a second copy and put it somewhere else. I prefer you have a digital copy in one area, at least a print or digital copy somewhere else. Maybe if you've got a friend's computer or a home computer and a work computer, have those things living in different spots. We had the recent floods lately, and there are plenty of businesses that were wiped out because water and electricity still don't mix. And so if that happens, I don't want you someday having to fall back on, oh gosh, I had permission from this lady, but I can't find it. Get permission from her. Doesn't have to be the Magna Carta. Make it specific as to what she's going to let you do with it, but do keep a copy of it. For Grammarly, check it. It's going to tell you, hey, I send this out to train other AIs. Be very careful doing that. I love it. Dion builds and sells picnic tables. So guess what, Dion? When you're throwing out that card and it says Dion Kelly, that picture at it, that picture is helping you solicit business. So you need to be very, 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 very cognizant of the fact that if the owner or artist who owns that picture comes a knocking, you could be in a lot of hot water. I suggest we move away from that. William says, I hired a contractor to design my business logo. Should I trust that? Absolutely, William. You can absolutely trust it. But what I want from them is a copyright assignment. I want a written document that says, Dear William, me contractor, give you all ownership. It's a little more complex than that, obviously, but I do need that from them to you. Alexis, I took an AI class and they said if you use the basic version, non-paid, then it will use your information for other things. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Alexis, is they're saying, hey, you use the free model, we're going to use it to train the AIs. You want to make certain that if you're using the paid model that you know where that goes to, because it's very simple to slip into those terms and agreements and y'all do the same thing. You know, the phone updates and it says, do you agree? Yes, I agree, because I want to use my phone. I want my heavy metal. I want my podcasts. So we all are guilty of that same sin, but I need y'all to go find out what happens to that AI. Costas chiming in with the, hey, you always have multiple backups in different locales. The reason we say that, guys, we've had the fires come through. We just had a hurricane hit recently. We've had the floods. We never want our stuff all in one nest. It is a bad plan. We want there to be multiples on it. We want there to be a backup because as a small business, guys, you know, this information, this data, it's your lifeblood. And I don't want there to be anything you do that you don't have a backup of. Now, guess what, folks? Today, we're using our main resource here, the SBDC. You know, I put that in the slide to say, hey, you're using it today. You are. You're asking me questions. You're asking Costas questions. Veronica, what type of AI did I say to use? I want you to use a captive AI. I want you to use an AI that stays on your system and does not feed information to a separate server. A captive AI stays on your computer, doesn't send information off your computer. But guys, our resources here are huge, and for a small business, they're great. I want y'all to know the SBDCs out here. They've got cousins at SCORE. They're okay with y'all talking to each other. They don't get jealous. The SBA, it's Small Business Administration. Guess what? Great for small businesses. Great for minority-owned or female-owned businesses to be able to find out what's out there. Guess what? They can help you. They can help you find funding. Business management courses, and we've got Fast Track in Greenville. We've got the Greenville Library System. They do some great presentations there. I presented at them, so don't use that against them. They're great people. Community Works is out here. Clemson and USC both have management courses, guys, that y'all can use to become a better management person. Again, a good management person's right here with us today, and that's in the form of Costas. There's another one right here in the form of Emily. They're SBDC folks. Costas says, hey, is it okay to use AI to create a business logo? Costas, you're on today, my friend. These questions are, I love it. It might be. And the reason I say might is because I need to know what the AI says you can do with what it creates. Because if you say, hey, AI, create this, I need to know in that terms and conditions who owns what's created. You know, it's a big legal issue right now. We haven't had courts come down yet really definitively and say, hey, if AI creates this, there's no ownership for the AI. But we've had a lot of them say, hey, AIs can get you in trouble personally. We've got a statute in South Carolina for realtors, Amanda, saying, hey, if you use an AI and it basically infringes somebody or uses other photos or a description of a house that it lifted from somebody else's website, you can be personally or commercially liable for that. So you need to be very careful with it. But Costas's question is, can I use AI to create a logo? Maybe. We need to know what it says, who owns what at the end of the day. Y'all, you have been awesome. Here's a picture of my ugly mug, so now you know you're almost free. But I want to see, are there any other questions? Alexis just wrote, this was very helpful. Thank you for everything. You're most welcome. That's the reason we do this, is to help you guys. Does anybody have any questions? We've still got a little time remaining. Anything you're curious about? Anything we covered on today's presentation? Glad to help everybody. Amanda Dion, you're most welcome. And I'll throw my emails right up here, but I'll throw it in the chat too, just in case anybody wants to reach out. Some of y'all mentioned maybe looking at your trademarks. Happy to help. Ping me. We can get it done. Again, I do give free consults, but I also want y'all to realize, hey, this list of resources in here, they're free. They're for you guys. I want y'all to do that. Making certain I spelled everything right. I'm also putting my direct line in here. This comes right to my desk. If I'm not here, leave a voicemail. I will call you back. Where are the resources? And Ollie, there, I'm going to go back to this slide. They're right here. And that's the SBDC, SCORE, the SBA, and our various business management courses. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is the best list. This is who you want to deal with. Got Costas throwing up his internet email to reach out to him. I want y'all to do this. And Ollie, you're so very welcome. I don't know there's wisdom more than just, hey, we had a great conversations today. And I want y'all to understand all of us are here to help. Me, Emily, and Costas, it's what we do. We want small businesses to exceed because guess what? Y'all are the lifeblood of the economy. It's not the BMWs, it's not the Michelins, it is small businesses. You guys are the vast majority of American business. That's the way it's always going to be. And y'all are awesome for it. But hey, man, I admire y'all's bravery. You're out there, you're doing something, you're taking a risk, you're out there to use this energy that you've got to move forward. I wish all of y'all nothing but the very best. If there's anything I can ever do to help you, let me know. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to Emily and Costas.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you, and we hope you have a wonderful day.